Hello, I'm Becca,
And I'm Katy.
and you're listening to the Once Upon a Binge podcast. If you find yourself struggling with binge eating, body image, or perfectionism, then this is the podcast for you.
Join us, two former binge eaters and recovering perfectionists, as we share our experiences of overcoming binge eating, learning to accept our bodies as they are, and letting go of the fairy tale myth of perfection.
Now let's get into today's episode. Hi, listeners. Today, we have a slightly different episode to usual. We have an announcement today on this episode, which I am going to hand over to Katy with the announcement because it comes from her, ultimately.
I don't know why I thought you were gonna take the lead with that, and I was like, "Whew." Got myself out of that one. Yeah, so we've been doing this podcast now for 18 months.
Yeah, by the time this comes out, almost
Probably nearing
18
18 months. And just for various reasons, which we will both talk about later, I have come to the very difficult decision to walk away from the podcast. It has definitely not been an easy decision. We've been talking quite a lot, actually, over the past 6+ months about the podcast, where things have changed for us. The podcast will continue. It is still going to run. It's going to stay as Once Upon a Binge podcast. And Becca has some exciting ideas that you're going to take with it, aren't you, Becca?
Yes, so just feel a little bit strange. I'm not going to lie, to have that change in dynamic. And I guess we can talk about that a bit more in today's episode. But I will be continuing the podcast as a solo host with different guests on. So it'll still be Once Upon a Binge. It's still going to be all around breaking free from the binge restrict cycle, body image, some perfectionism in there. So everything's going to be the same in terms of the content that we talk about, but it will be a different guest on every 2 weeks. And some of them will be guests with lived experience. So talking about their experiences of recovery. And then some people will also be professionals like therapists, dietitians, personal trainers, coming in and sharing their experience from a professional perspective as well. So hopefully it'll still be useful for people to listen to. But yeah, slightly different dynamic to the podcast.
I think it will be incredibly insightful. I think people talking about their lived experience is never not valuable, as we've learned and we continue to learn every time we post an episode. People being able to relate to someone else and hear someone put into words a way that they're feeling so that they can feel less alone is so powerful that I have no doubt you'll be able to capture that. There is going to be the adjustment period for sure. It's very different going from a co-host dynamic to more of an interviewer dynamic.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the most challenging things, isn't it?
There is inevitably going to be a change in dynamic. However, everyone I've spoken to about being a guest on the show, I have said that I'm very keen for it to still stay quite conversational and quite anecdotal and not just a question answer. I don't want it to just become like lots of different interviews that people are listening to. So I'm still going to be sharing my lived experience based on whatever's relevant to that conversation and that topic for that week. So I still want to keep that informal kind of chatty style and hopefully that feeling of this kind of recovery community space that people can be part of. So if there is anyone who's listening who has lived experience and actually does want to be a guest, and it's actually, I think that would be really helpful for me to share my experience on the podcast, please drop me a message because like I say, I'm really keen for us to not only have professionals coming on the podcast. I think there's so much in just hearing people from loads of different backgrounds and walks of life and just two people coming together to talk about it. So if anyone is feeling like that would be something that they want to do, let me know.
Yeah, it's important that we keep having these conversations in this space with everything going on. It's easy for this space to feel quieter. Like maybe it's being clouded in other things. So yeah, I think it's good that these conversations are still going to take place because they're important.
Yeah, I actually really agree with you there. I think that's part of it's been a bit difficult decision. Like Katie said, we've had lots of conversations about this, to be fair, over the last sort of 6 months in terms of capacity and future goals and stuff like that. And some of those have changed slightly from when we first started. Maybe we were more aligned in terms of our future goals and our capacity, and that's slightly changed, which is part of why we've come to this decision. But I think, like you mentioned, looking at there was a big decision for me. Do I carry on with this? And that's quite a scary decision as well. But it felt like actually it's still really needed. I'm really proud of what we've created together, Katie. I think it's really valuable and I want more people to be able to access it. And with the rise of skinny and GLP-1s and everything like that, I know so many people who work in the eating disorder field or even just disordered eating, body image kind of field who have sadly had to step away from that line of work and had to go back to other jobs because they're just not getting it's not sustainable financially to be able to continue to do it, or they have found it too emotionally like taxing on them to be having these conversations and trying to fight to get that our message out there against the noise of everything else. And understandably, like if that feels too draining, then people need to step away and protect their own mental health and well-being. But for me, that was a factor in why actually I really need to carry on doing this because I don't want another resource to be lost for people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're spot on.
How are you feeling though, Katie?
It feels surreal. Having this conversation feels surreal. Because as we say, although we've talked about this, we've each had a lot going on in our own worlds. So you with your studying and being very busy with that. I took a step back from Instagram. That became quite a difficult place to be, not in terms of the coaching business side of things, but in just fighting against an algorithm that doesn't really like the conversation around binge eating and anything to do with eating disorders. So, unfortunately, it's left me in the position where it's felt like we've gone separate paths in terms of where our goals were. When we started doing this podcast, I was coaching and very in this world. And although this is still incredibly important and this conversation is important, because things have gone a different direction for me, the difficulty has been having the capacity. Because I don't know how many times that we've each said to each other, I know I've definitely said it to you loads of times, Becca, like recording is the best. Sitting down and recording an episode, it's just the best thing. That's never been an issue. And it's something I will really miss. There's a lot of work that goes into a podcast, a lot of time. It requires a lot behind the scenes to run a podcast. Even a podcast like ours that's not even mainstream,
tiddly one.
a little tiddly podcast. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's only fair that is met with the right time and energy. And I unfortunately got to a point where I felt like I was like, I'm struggling to find the capacity to give this podcast what it deserves and what it needs to continue to reach people and continue to be something of value. I say that, I think even if we reach one person, I think it's still one person that's been reached. I don't think we ever started this podcast thinking we were going to take over the world, but we've had such wonderful feedback, such lovely emails from people. We've connected with so many people. I really have loved it. And so now it feels weird because it feels like coming to an end for me. It feels like it's something that I don't necessarily want to do, but I think it's necessary. And I think it's the fair thing to do. Still in denial a little bit. I think even when this episode's been published, I'm like, Becca, when are we meeting to record? Because
Well,
I
you're always
can't not
welcome
do
back if you
it.
change your mind. I will take you back. It would be cool if you could come back every now and again.
I would happily do that. I know it's scary venturing into the unknown, but I think you'll find your feet. But how are you feeling?
I feel some sadness, obviously, because I've enjoyed this. I will miss being able to have these conversations together, that connection that we have. Not that we're just never going to talk to each other,
Absolutely not.
but it's slightly different, isn't it? We're not going to be sitting down and having these in-depth conversations about a specific topic. So we'll miss that. And I think there's some grief around grieving what I envisaged the podcast looking like long term with you and I, and that not becoming the reality. But I'm also aware that if we were to continue, also still wasn't going to be the reality anyway. So it just grieving that. I feel a lot of pride. I feel a lot of pride in what we've been able to achieve and how well we've been able to navigate a lot of this together, and actually how honest we've both been with each other about what we want for our futures, what we want from the podcast, what we like, what we struggle with, all of that. And I think having these ongoing conversations and really trying to work together on that, and then getting to this place today where we've decided that you've decided that you're going to step away and I've decided that I'm going to continue. I think that we've both handled that with each other with a lot of grace and respect for each other, which I'm really proud of us for. Then I'm a little bit anxious. I'm a bit anxious about moving forward and doing it on my own, because I always say to Katy, what if just no one listens? What if they're all here for you, Katy, and then no one continues to listen?
Definitely not the case. Don't worry.
So a bit of anxiety about that, and also about doing it all on my own now as well. But yeah, we'll see. I think onto a new chapter, I guess. And thank you to everyone who has been listening so far, whether you've been here from the start or whether you've discovered us recently. We appreciate that. I hope you stick around, and please do comment, share, reach out to us, because there's nothing that warms my heart more when someone reaches out and actually shares some of their feedback on an episode. This is really nice to see the humans behind this, because we put it out there and we don't know who's listening to it. So it's really nice to get that human connection back, to be like, oh, these people are listening and this is how it's landed for them. And that's just really connecting and warming.
Yeah, I love the idea that someone takes the time to leave a comment or to send an email or to reach out and just say, this was helpful, thank you.
Or even if you've got a different opinion, I'm keen to hear that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's space for everyone.
Because I think from doing this, I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed the most is hearing your perception, your experience, and how you perceive certain things and how that's different to mine, because there is similarities and overlaps for sure, but we're quite different characters too.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it work though, isn't it? If we spend an hour every fortnight agreeing and talking about our experience in the same way, I think it just highlights how everyone's individual experience with an eating disorder is valid, because we can be navigating the same situations in life, and the way that it translates through food is different, and hearing other people and trying to find yourself in other people to feel a little bit less alone and validate your own experience is just so invaluable.
Yeah, really agree with that. And I think that's one thing I'm hoping by having different guests on, that it might actually even broaden that ability for me to be able to showcase many different people's experiences or perspectives, that people might learn even more. And myself personally as well, I might even learn much more about eating disorders and much more about myself and my experiences through hearing other people with lived experience and professional experience coming at it from different angles. Like, oh, yeah, maybe that makes sense for me too.
Yeah,
Or
see,
maybe it doesn't.
that makes a riveting conversation. That's how you entice people, Becca. That's how you reel them in.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to say around your experience in the podcast, Katy?
I really have loved it. And it is sad because when we started this, you never even thought about it ending. So there is a great deal of sadness as well as denial about it. It's difficult to make a decision when you feel like either side doesn't necessarily feel completely right. You know, I was aware that it was becoming harder to do it, but leaving didn't feel right. I think that's the hardest part, the fact that although I know this is the necessary decision, I don't have that relief of, oh, I've made the right decision, so it feels good.
Yeah.
I don't have that. Well, I don't think I ever will have that. There'll always be a bit of longing. There'll always be like that, what if, but I just have to honour what's right now. It's always important to know when to step away, isn't it?
Yeah, which is a really interesting topic for conversation, isn't it? About when to
Yeah.
step away, when to let go, and endings. And I don't think I'm the greatest at endings. I don't think I'm always the greatest at stepping away from something. Probably why I'm still carrying on.
Brilliant.
I think I'm one of these people that, like, I don't feel able to step away from something until I feel like I have actually just given it everything I possibly could. And I'm not at that place right now. And I appreciate that you might be right now, and that's totally fine because we're coming at it from different places, which is why I wanted to carry on.
I'm
But
excited.
it's going to be weird because it's a unique relationship to have. Like, what we have is a unique relationship because we actually don't see each other really outside the podcast. It's not like we were friends and then we set up the podcast and we came together without really knowing each other to create this podcast. And most of the conversations we have with each other are within this window where we're being like filmed and recorded. So it's quite a unique relationship to have that with someone where you don't really have much conversation outside of a window where you sit down to talk about something really in depth and really personal. And I see similarities between that and like therapy, essentially, where you come to see your therapist and you've got an hour where you just sit down and talk to them. Whereas the difference here is we're both sharing, we're both being really vulnerable and open. Whereas in therapy, it is more one-sided. Like, your therapist isn't going to be responding to what you've said with, oh yeah, in my experience, that's not what therapy is. It shouldn't be. So if
They
your
shouldn't be
therapist is like doing that,
Get rid.
question it. So I think, oh, it's going to be really weird for that kind of relationship to not be there in my life anymore. Even though we're still going to have a relationship and a friendship, but the dynamic of that in itself is going to change.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is weird. And I think that's that's like the grief you were speaking of earlier. You're like losing that
Yes.
dynamic. You're saying goodbye to that dynamic that although you're going to connect still with people, it's very different when it's a different person each time and you haven't built a rapport and you haven't got that awareness of another person that you're building over time.
Yeah, it's like a unique relationship that I probably won't ever really have again. At the moment, I can't envisage how I would ever have that relationship with someone ever again. Thank you. I'm grateful for the
I'm so
opportunity to have
grateful.
had it.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be still booking in a monthly Zoom.
Yeah,
probably.
And the question is, Katy, will you be listening to the podcast?
Of course. I'm guessing you'll release on the same day.
Yeah, it's still going to be
fine. Good.
I'm keeping everything the same.
Perfect.
Just for consistency's sake, it'll just be the other screen will change. I am going to have the first episode, obviously the next episode, is going to be with Will. I'm going to have Will, my partner, on to talk.
I love that. That's going to be great. Oh, took my.
Because he's featured a lot in my conversations, and I think there can be an interesting discussion to be had there.
I'm going to look forward to that. Start off strong, I say.
No pressure, Will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've said it on the podcast now. You've got to actually do it. He has agreed, by the way.
Just to say you have told him about this, right?
Yeah, he's in full agreement. Fully consenting.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm going to look forward to that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Shall we wrap up there? Or is there anything else that you want to reflect on?
No, I think if we're not careful, I'm just going to ramble and repeat myself.
Yeah, we may become a bit self-indulgent.
We may, yeah. Yeah, people aren't going to want to hear that.
So, just a short one for today then.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Katy.
Thank you, Becca, for doing this. It's been fantastic. And I'm still in denial, so it's fine. So I'll see you in a fortnight. Oh, God.
And good luck. Good luck with everything else moving forward.
I'm
Katy,
excited.
I really mean that.
I'm excited to see what you do with the podcast. I'm excited. It's going to thrive now. Watch it thrive.
Imagine that won't happen.
It will. Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening.
Guys.
And I will see you in the next one.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the support. Appreciate it.
thoughts.